All right. You ready? Hey guys, welcome to C2L. I'm Tom.
I'm Kalpa.
Welcome to Chennai to Lagos. Today is a very interesting story time, as you can see from the title. Yes, that actually nearly did happen, and we just felt, I think we brought it up in a couple of videos, we've kind of hinted towards it. So yeah, today we will be diving into details.
Yep.
So.
Where do I start? Alright, so we're gonna do my perspective, his perspective kind of story. But this was about 6 months into our relationship. And there was this whole period of a few weeks or so when I felt like our communication was really crappy, for lack of better words. We were just not in it, we were just not talking with all our heart, and I felt like there was a disconnect somewhere. And it's strange, and it's more evident when you're early on in the relationship, because the first few months of being in a relationship, you give it your all and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe I'm dating this person. And then 6 months in, it's like, wow, something's just not right. And that happened, and it was really bugging me. But I didn't bring it up then because we were just we didn't have much time together at that time. As much as we were in the same university, we had different class timings, different extracurriculars we're involved in, and we just didn't get a chance to spend time together and talk about it. And so I just didn't bring it up. So that kind of just kept adding into the tension that I felt. And then to top it all off, this happens, right? So my friend releases his music around the same time, and he has this launch party. And I'm just that person who likes to test people and see where I stand in their life. And so I was hoping that Tom would actually invite me for that event because he's a mutual friend. But after a while, and on the same day of the event, I realized that actually Tom hadn't invited me to the event. Invite as in come with me as my date. He hadn't done that. And I was anyways gonna go because it's my friend. But I found it so odd that my boyfriend just didn't tell me that he was also going to show up to this event, and that he didn't even ask me if I wanted to go with him. And I was so sad that day. I actually ended up crying at the end of the day, and I was so mad at him. In fact, I texted Tom and I was like, so are you going for this event? And he's like, oh yeah. So I'm like, you didn't think to ask me? And he said something, I can't remember, I think he said, I thought you were busy or something. And no matter what excuse he was going to tell me, I was just so hell-bent in believing that this man doesn't want to take me for an event. And it's our first official event, so doubts started creeping in, doesn't he want to show me out? Maybe that's the thing, he didn't want to announce it yet to the public. Or he's just, maybe I'm just living in my own bubble and we're not even in a relationship, some silly thoughts like that. And I was just really sad that day. But we did go for the event at the end of the day. I did see him there and we did chill, but it just wasn't the same. And I went home feeling that empty feeling in your stomach, that something just isn't okay. So that happened. Yeah.
So, this was a period where we had been dating, like you said, for about 6 months. The beginning was, all, oh my God, this was Mr. and Miss USIU. The idea of us being a couple was fantastic, It was a perfect story, and I think, we're really just caught in the hype of all of that. But honestly, from my own point of view, what started to happen was, and I don't think we've ever had this conversation. What started to happen was that I think I got so overwhelmed with the idea of us, and I knew that if this was going to continue, I knew that there were challenges ahead. I knew that there was a lot of stuff we had to face. And I think in the beginning, we never really talked about it. It was just you know what, let's do this, Mr. and Miss, super couple relationship goals and everything. But I don't think we ever stopped to think and understand, okay, we do know that a relationship like ours is not the most common thing. And I think we had that at the back of our heads, but we never really had a conversation about it, which is very interesting because now look at us here talking about, this interracial relationships and things like that. I keep saying interracial. I don't know why I'm doing that. Interracial, right? So I think for me, this was a time where I was so uncertain about the future that it's like my body was constantly going into self-sabotage because I didn't think that it would push forward, which is so strange. I remember and it's so important who you listen to. Like anytime I'd meet somebody and they hear that me and you had started dating, they're like, oh wow, that doesn't happen, man, And I feel like I had probably, without knowing it, unconsciously, I had listened to so much so many voices of why this was going to be hard. And honestly, at that time, I don't think mom and dad knew about us.
No.
The mom and dad didn't. They actually knew when we were about a year in,
yeah.
And for me, I guess
but my mom knew by then.
Yeah, and I think I was just so overwhelmed, like, wow, man, what's going to happen? How do I explain this to mom? How do I explain this to dad? What's going on? What if they don't see this the same way? Do we really see the world the same way? And all these doubts that everyone actually has about, I'm about to say interracial couples was all over my mind. And I think during that time, I entered this like self-sabotage moment where it felt like we were headed to the destruction zone. And I was just sitting back, waiting for it to happen. After that point, I think in the mix of it all, I kind of, which is so strange, I kind of had like a much more divine encounter where I felt that, you know what, the next phase of my life has to be lived with intention. And I meant living not for myself, but understanding that there's a bigger plan for my life. God had a plan for my life. There were things that I had to do that now led to, I guess, self-reflection moments. And for the first time, I took a step back from all the hype to look at us. And I realized that, you know what, as much as I felt we were headed down that thing, let's just see what happens. And I remember I called you and I told you that I wanted us to talk. Typical movie thing. Hey, we have to talk.
Yeah. You see, all this is saying I didn't know that was happening because we just didn't have a strong communication back then. So whatever he's saying now, it came to me later. But at that moment, I was convinced that he's out of this relationship. I wasn't able to say why or who might be the problem here. So when he did call me and say, let's meet, I was quite certain this was going to end because I wasn't in a good place in the relationship, number one, and there was just some unsaid negative tension on WhatsApp and stuff, not really talking. And then the event that we had gone to as well it didn't patch up anything. We left that event. I left that event feeling a bit empty, like there's something not right here. And you see, for me, like at that time, as much as whatever Tom is saying about him worrying about the interracial relationship didn't occur to me then, because I was very certain with this relationship and I didn't see myself in any other after that point. And it's also why I told my mom. I have never told my mom about my other relationships and stuff. So essentially, I knew this is what I wanted. Obviously, there's bound to be struggles, but I wasn't really bothered about it. I was just bothered that we weren't connecting, and if we had a weak bond, the world could easily, crumble us. And that's what was worrying me, is how can I walk this hard path with someone who can't communicate with me, who I can't seem to understand.
And once I entered, I think a few months in, I didn't know that obviously this is what I wanted. I think it's just one of those things where, especially from our backgrounds, honestly, this doesn't really happen. You get what I mean? There's not like a lot of reference. It's now that we decided to, come out with this channel, that we've been able to meet a community of people who actually relationships like us. And now we know, okay, actually, there is a lot.
Possible.
This is possible.
Yeah.
It happens all over the world, But around this time, obviously, I was sure about things. But you see, like at that point in time, we were so young. We were still,
just I think 21.
Yeah, and at that
22.
time, we were not asking the tough questions.
Yeah.
We were stuck in a bubble, thinking that this would just move like that, everything would just fall in place, and we were really just stuck in that bubble. We didn't think about the real hard questions that we would have to ask down the line, and obviously, you would think that once we get there, we'll cross it, but it was so overwhelming. And I think about it now, as much as I knew that I wanted this, a part of me was just trying to step out before. It was like self-sabotage, right? It's like an scapegoat, because like, oh my God, you don't know what lies down. You don't know how messed up this can be, down the line. And so when I called, that day was so strange, because I knew we were going to have a conversation. And for me, the conversation was really just about, there are a few changes that are happening in my life. I wanted to get serious about, the bigger purpose of why I'm here, and how I presented it to her was like, hey, this is what's happening in my life. I had this encounter, this and that. And this is how I want to live my life now, or this is the path that I want to take. And I kind of left it open. But at the back of my mind, I don't know why I thought that this was going to be the end. So after that conversation, like, I think the way it played out in my mind is that, back to the whole thinking of self-sabotage was like, okay, when we have this conversation, for sure, like, I don't see this thing moving past. So I actually got there that day thinking that this might actually be it, and I told her. But before I continue, I want you to say what was going on in your mind during this whole thing, because there's a turning point for me in our conversation that day.
Well, I just knew that you were coming over to talk, and I had a friend staying over at my place back then, so I just requested that she gives us a bit of a privacy, because I hadn't told my friends that this was happening. I don't think our friends even knew.
No, I don't think anyone knows about this.
Yeah, they'd have gotten so angry, like, how dare you try and break this, So it was just me dealing with it internally, which made it worse. But I think also it's good because, when you do share some things, a lot of opinions come in, and it can easily mess you up. So I was dealing with it alone. I was just praying about it by myself. So he said he's coming over, and I'm not the person to self-sabotage, especially with something I love. So I was just like, okay, I don't know what outcome may come out of this, but I know there's room to talk. There's room to express, because I trust it's a safe place when we do meet. So, but I did have feeling like, it might just go downhill for all we know. I can't force someone to stay in a relationship with me. So so he came over and we just had this conversation, which is still really blurry to me, because I had the nerves that day, and I was just such a wreck, and I feel like I couldn't focus so well. Like, I just wanted to know. It's like, when you're watching a movie or you're reading a book and you like go fast forward to go to the end and you see what happens. That's how I felt throughout the conversation. It was just so gruesome. Like, what's about to happen? What's his next sentence? Is he going to say, so I think this is not going to work out, or so I think we should not do this. So I was like such a wreck to be like, what's your next sentence? That I didn't focus on like a lot of what he had said.
And this is actually where the turning point was. I feel like as we were having that conversation, it's like my mind was trying to say something, but my heart wasn't ready to say it. It's like it was a battle, right? It's a battle between trying to see that, okay, I don't know this, I know down the line there will be challenges, but it's like my heart was telling me that, don't worry, you can deal with it. It was a battle. It was a mental battle, because honestly, a part of me felt that after that day, we wouldn't be a couple anymore. And I remember after I shared with her what was going on, I can never forget this. And I don't know if you remember it. When I told you, like, these are the, this is what I feel, this is what's happening, you just nodded like, all right. then we'll do it together. And honestly, at that point, I came there, a part of me came there feeling like this was it. But after you responded, something changed. I can't explain it, but I know that was the moment that changed, because I think at that point in time, when I heard you talk, it's like what I was feeling in my heart is that you were basically saying, yeah, I'm ready to fight for this, you know. And for me, that just changed the way I saw everything, because a lot was going on. I was young, I was confused, you know. I knew that I loved this person. I wasn't sure how it was going to progress. I wasn't sure what the future was like. There were so many uncertainties. There were so many deep fears, things I hadn't really expressed or talked about. But after that conversation, everything, and you know the funny thing, I can't really pinpoint, but I know that after that day, it's so strange. Like, you've heard us talk about how this thing was going downhill. But after that conversation, to me, I feel like that was the turning point in our relationship. Mm-hmm. Because I can't even pinpoint how it happened. But after that day, it's like we both realized somehow that, you know what, all right, I guess we're doing this together. I guess we are ready to fight for this. I guess we're ready to face the uncertainties. And that's the only moment like that we've had, you know. But I think for me, that moment is what showed me that, wow, if we could come this close to the end, but we somehow intervened for us. At that point, I think that was when the moment I realized that, yeah, this is somebody that I can spend the rest of my life with, without actually being able to say it or understand what was going on. But I think at that point, for sure, if I had any doubts of anything, I knew that this was the person that I had to be with.
Yeah, I guess I don't remember saying that, but I do remember at the end of the conversation that it didn't feel as big as I thought it would.
Yeah.
It didn't feel as big of an obstacle as I had made up in my mind. And I guess that was why communication was so critical, because you make up so many instances in your mind and none of them could even be real. So after he finished the conversation, I was like, is there more, you know, in my mind?
Are we broken? Are we a couple?
Yeah, exactly. But it didn't seem like it, and everything he had mentioned in the conversation wasn't too much of an anomaly for me. Like, I could understand where he's coming from. I could understand his encounter. I could understand what he wanted out of this relationship and his life. And I thought that was great. Like, why would I ever step out of a relationship from a man like this because of just a new turning in his life? You know, that it didn't make sense to me. So when now we finished the conversation and he did leave to go home, I was still not sure if what had happened. I wasn't sure if we were a couple or not, or did he just subtly break up with me? You know, that happens. Like, you could easily break up with someone and the other person doesn't know you guys are broken up. Yeah, so I was just like, what happened there? But then, like, with his conversations afterwards, like, you know, I felt like for the longest time I was always trying to reach out to him. I was always trying to be like, hi Tom, you know, during our relationship. And then, like, this after this day, like, it just changed. Like, I knew this is gonna happen at some point. So, like, after this particular day, you know, things changed, and he was the one reaching out to me, and he was the one who initiated conversations and made it a lovable relationship, you know. And I didn't feel, there's a time I felt like unwanted in the relationship. Like, am I a burden in his time and his space, you know? But then after this, like, really horrible downward phase of our relationship and that very crucial conversation, you know, I felt like, okay, he's letting me in. He's actually letting me be a part of his life, a partner, a friend, you know, and a girlfriend. So that meant so much to me. And yeah, I think that's really where we patched up, and we never looked back from there, and we've never stopped having conversations from there. We're always that couple, like, any small winds of irritation, we're like, okay, talk to me, tell me everything you feel, tell me right now. Let's sort it out, you know. So we're, like, super keen on, like, talking everything out, and it's really been helpful.
Yeah, and then I think it was really a turning point, and I think learning the power of communication and the power of fighting for what you believe in. And I think if any lesson I got from this is that if you're in something that you believe is worth fighting for, don't stop fighting. No matter how tough it is, no matter how unsure it, the future looks. If you believe in it, fight for it. That's all I can say. And I feel like that was a turning point, and it became so easier. And, every day I have continued to grow in love with you, because of like that moment. I kind of, it was such a great turning moment.
I would call it a godly intervention.
It actually was.
It was a spiritual intervention, and clearly God meant for this to happen, because even at a point when we thought it wasn't, I felt like there was just something that happened, and we can't put a finger on it, but it worked
and it
out.
doesn't make sense. Like, two guys are expecting, this relationship, we're done, right? That's where we felt it was going. But after the meeting where everything was meant to go down, you leave feeling like, oh, okay, what's happening?
Fine.
Oh, okay,
no
things are better. And that wasn't even really how we saw that conversation. So honestly, it's a very strange, but like I said, I feel it was an intervention, but it was the best thing that I think happened to us, because it's very easy to get caught up in the hype of the relationship, and especially a relationship like ours, where you don't ask the tough questions. And it's not like we started asking them after immediately. We knew that, okay, there's a lot of stuff we don't know. When we get there, we'll deal with it. But the main point was that we both realized that we could trust in each other to fight for this. So
and here we are fighting for it. Side by side.
About to get married.
Yes.
So
would have thought.
Imagine.
Yeah.
So that happened. So yes, we were at that point, and it did turn around. So in the end, it did become a beautiful story, and it's a very special story for us, because what was meant for bad ended up for good.
Yeah. So there it is. We didn't even have our coffee.
But hey,
it's gotten cold.
We can
But
start.
that is a story. That is story time.
Yeah.
Hope you guys enjoyed it.
Hope you enjoyed it. Like, subscribe. See you guys next week.
Bye.
Bye. Quick pause. You have lipstick on your teeth. You still have it on this one. Okay, it's gone up. Okay, I think it's fine. You have it at the top of the gown. Other side. There we go.